Good morning, everybody. So today is a special day. We filmed these videos out at my business partner Stefan's house, and when I was walking in, I actually saw the first flowers of the spring. They're actually pretty far out of the ground, so I know that I'm personally really excited about that. It's been a dark winter, and it's really nice to feel things changing. So I know it's going to be beautiful, at least in the Boston area. So if you're out here, I hope you get a chance to be outside today. But we'll, of course, start with our practices for this morning. So as always, just find your way to a seated position of some type. Whenever you've established that, close your eyes and redirect your focus to your breath. And for the next few moments, breathe normally. And just pay attention to your breath as it moves into and out of your lungs. It's normal for your mind to wander, but notice when it does. And train your concentration by mindfully redirecting to your breath. You may have noticed, but there are a number of different alternate nostril breathing patterns. Today's is taken from an old school meditation text called the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, an old school classic. When you're ready, lift your right hand up to your face and place the tip of your index and middle finger right between your eyebrows. And then concentrate on the space you're touching, your third eye, and breathe all the way in. Then again, breathe all the way out. Use your thumb to block the right nostril and inhale left. Ring finger to left, exhale right. Inhale left side. Exhale right side. Inhale left. Exhale right. Breathe in the right. Breathe out the left. Inhale right side. Exhale left side. Inhale right. Exhale left. And drop your hand to your lap. Breathe all the way in. Breathe all the way out. Once you've done so, return all of your awareness and attention to your normal breath. And be mindful of your inhaling and exhaling. And join your hands together in a prayer at your chest and bring to mind someone in your life who could use some positive energy. And for the next few moments, in your way, dedicate your practices to them. And perhaps pray for their happiness and well-being. And then for the moment, open up your eyes. All right, so today we'll do some pre-stretching before we get to it. So when you're ready, slide your left sitting bone back. Since I'm facing the camera, I'll do my right so it looks like we're doing the same thing. And then place your right hand on your left knee and your left fingertips on the floor behind you. Tuck your ribs down in the front, elongate upwards through your spine, and then twist left and gaze straight backward over your shoulder behind. The first stretch of the practice, and this time of day especially, is totally normal to be a bit tense or tight. So just twist gently into the tension and mentally relax the areas that are tight. Now release the twist there, and then draw your right sitting bone a little further back. Take the same twisting on the other side. Left hand to right knee, and your right fingertips on the floor behind you. Now, if you back bend as you twist, it puts a little too much tension in your back muscles. So tuck your ribs down in the front, rotate, and gaze straight backward over your shoulder behind. Deep breaths in and deep breaths out. If you find a spot that's resistant, send your awareness to the spot that resists and just relax it mentally. And release the twist, and we'll go to that old school classic, the cat-cow. So roll to the four-pointed kneeling position with your shoulders right above your hands. Let your knees be just a bit behind your hips. And then round your back with your exhales. And alternate by lifting your tailbone and your chest to bend in the other direction. Huge exhales to round. And your inhales to arch your spine. Deep breaths forward as well as back. Now let your hips drop all the way down to your heels for the child's pose. Once you've gotten your hips into that position, walk your hands way over to your left and use that to stretch the side of your torso. And a few deep breaths into your ribs. Walk your hands back through the middle. Take them over for the same posture on the other side. And then take them back to the middle. Come up to the four-pointed kneeling. Once you've done so, swing your left leg all the way forward to a lunging posture. Now slide your rear leg back just a little bit further. And plant your hands on the floor. Take your left hand to your leg. And then stretch your hamstrings and your hip flexors by letting your hips sink toward the earth. If you want to intensify a little bit, you can always twist toward your front leg. The most important thing for now, though, is that the hips heavily sink down toward the ground. Lift your hips up and plant your hands, then swing your leg all the way back. Lunge your other leg all the way forward. Scoot your left leg rearward. You can definitely keep your hands on the floor as you sink your pelvis toward the earth. Alternatively, if you did before, make sure you throw in the twist. And just let your hips drop down toward the earth. Let them get heavy so you feel some opening in the back of your front leg. Now release the twist, curl your toes under and back, and this time step all the way up to the front of your mat. Come up to the tips of your fingers once you're there, and with length in your spine, bend one leg and straighten the other leg. And for now, just keep alternating. Now bend your knees just enough to plant your palms flat on the floor. Once you've done so, lift your hips a little higher till you feel stretched in the backs of your legs. If you can work toward completely straight legs, go for it. Though truth be told, that's not altogether necessary. Just lift your hips up until you feel a good solid opening in the backs of both legs. With your legs just like that, lift all the way up to your fingertips for some additional spinal length. Sweep your arms out to the sides and upwards to come all the way up to standing. Reach your arms up overhead. Grab a hold of your right wrist with your left hand. Reach up through the arms till they go straight. Take the half moon side bends by tipping your ribs to your left. Try to press down equally on all four corners of both feet, the inner edge as well as the outer edges. And breathe deep. Use an inhale to come all the way back up. Once you've done so, grab a hold of your left wrist and pull up. And tilt your torso over to your right side. Deep, slow breaths into the spaces that are resistant or tight. I tend to roll onto the baby toe side of my foot, so I'm pressing my big toes down. Check into your feet and make sure all four corners are anchored. Use an inhale to come all the way back up. Then forward fold with your exhale and take your hands all the way down to the ground. Bend your legs for the chair, upward sweep your arms to the ceiling overhead. Join your hands together in a prayer. Twist to your right, cross your left elbow over your legs. With hands taken together in a prayer position, then just twist your spine. And pull your belly muscles in and just rotate your spine around your center line. With your next breath in, sweep your arms all the way up. Join your hands in a prayer. Switch for the same posture on the other side. Once your hands are conjoined, press them together to spin. And use an inhale to sweep both arms all the way up. Straighten your legs to stand tall. And take your hands to your waist and heel toe your feet apart until they're separated by hip distance. Now roll your tail under until you feel your buttocks clenching a little bit. Do the opposite. Lift your tailbone backward and upward just slightly until your buttocks gets a slight bit softer. Now flex the muscles in your legs. Squeeze your elbows back in together. And to back bend, lift the front of your ribs up toward the ceiling. Roll your chin all the way back toward the rear. Deep breaths as you hold there. And then use an inhale to come up. Forward fold with your exhale and take your hands all the way down to the floor. Lift to your fingers on the inhale. Chaturanga push-up with an exhale. Knees can be down if you like. Up dog with an inhale. And the down dog stretch with your exhale. And try to straighten your elbows completely. Lift your tailbone higher into the air. And then for the moment, press both heels down toward the ground. With your heels still pressing, rotate your chest to the left. Sink your right armpit a little closer to the floor. Rotate your torso right and sink your left armpit a bit closer to the floor. And square your chest with the earth and come up to your tiptoes. Now, keep your hands anchored on the floor for this one. Move your hips and your heels to the right. Press out to your left hand just a little harder to thoroughly stretch your side. And then use an inhale to come all the way back up and sweep them over to the other side. Isn't a range of motion that often gets stretched. I love this pose. Keep pressing out your right hand until you really feel some stretch between your ribs. Now sweep your hips all the way back up. Take a look forward at the front. Warrior one. Step right foot forward to your thumbs. Turn your left heel down to the floor. Use an inhale to sweep your arms out to the sides and upwards. Now, if you like, your hands can be apart, but if that's the case, rotate your arms so that your palms face your skull. If you prefer to interlace your hands, go for it. Press to the heel of your back foot and bend your front leg just a little bit more to create some fire in your thigh. And keep your eyes locked on something solid and just keep breathing deep. Now lean all the way forward over your leg, taking your arms out to the sides like airplane wings. From that position, reach your arms forward with palms facing up. If that's a bit much, feel free to rock the airplane wings as an alternative, and just try to keep your spine long from the base to the top. Now still leaning forward, let your hands hang near the floor. Turn your back heel up to face the ceiling, and from there come up to a full lunge, arms up to the ceiling. Press your left heel back. Square your hips at the front of your mat, and then just bend your front leg to approach something a bit closer to 90 degrees. And then lean forward over your leg and plant your hands on the floor and step back to the high push-up position. Squeeze your elbows into your ribs and lower through chaturanga. Inhale for the up dog. And exhale for the down dog. All right, rock your shoulders toward your hands a little and come up to your tiptoes. Step your left foot all the way forward. Turn your back heel down to the floor. And with front leg bent, return to warrior one. And with your back heel on the floor, it's unlikely you're going to bend your front leg to 90 degrees, which is totally fine. Press down through your rear heel, bend into your front leg. And if it's hard to straighten your arms, take your arms a bit wider apart and try to poke some holes in the air up there above your head. Lift up to the walls of your chest, let your ribs poke out a little bit. Now reach your arms completely out to your sides. Lean forward, let your ribs physically rest on your leg. Still grounded through your back heel. Consider reaching your arms forward with palms up. Spine long from the base to the top. Now let your arms hang down near the earth and turn your back heel up to face the ceiling, and then finish with the full lunge, Anjaneyasana. Straighten your back leg by pressing through your heel. Slide your left leg bone backward in the socket to square your hips. And then as you keep pressing your rear foot backward, bend just a slight bit deeper into your front leg. All right, now this next push-up is going to be a little more challenging. Feel free to use your knees if you like. High plank position with arms straight. Curl your chin to your chest. Press your hands down really hard and squeeze every muscle in your body like you're trying to pop a balloon. Lower down, hold the low push-up for 5. 4, use your knees if you need to. 3, 2, 1, the up dog with an inhale. And all the way back to the down dog with your exhale. Slow, deep breaths and completely straight arms. Try to press your exhales out to your toes. Still holding the down dog. Rotate your chest left. Still holding the down dog, rotate your chest right. And square your chest with the floor below. Rock your shoulders toward your wrists a bit. Step your right foot forward, turn your back heel to the floor, and come all the way up to the top for Warrior Two. Both arms extend out to the sides of shoulder height. Take attention to your right hip crease. And like an 8-ball dropping into the corner pocket of a pool table, let your hip crease drop straight down toward the floor. Stretch through your back leg. Gaze out over your fingertips there in the front, and keep breathing deeply as you hold. Now straighten out your leg. Turn your feet to face the side of the mat. And then rotate your feet around and bend into Warrior Two on the other side. Sometimes you get greater depth if you think from the joints, so take attention to your left hip crease. Let that drop toward the floor a little bit, sitting bone toward the earth. Gaze out over your front fingers and breathe. Straighten out your leg. Take your hands to your hips. Narrow your stance a bit if it's helpful. And then take your hands to your waist and turn your big toes inwards. Now, going to do the mirror image. Place your right hand on the edge of your leg. I'll do my left. Side bend your right shoulder toward the edge of your foot, and with two completely straight legs, slide your hand down your shin. Reach your left arm all the way up. Reach it over the ear to the side to side bend another time. Now reach down and grab a hold of your right leg with your left hand. If you can get the top of the foot, do so. Otherwise, your shin is fine. Rotating right, keep your legs as straight as possible and reach your right arm straight up to the sky. Now windmill all the way back up to the top. Once you've done so, take your left hand to your leg. Right hand can rest on your hip initially. Keep your legs straight, maybe even flex your thighs. As you side bend left, slide your hand down toward the blade edge of your foot. Reach your other arm upwards. Stretch it all the way over the ear through the side. And just allow a big C-shaped curve through the side of your spine. Now just swivel your right arm down near the floor. Rotate over and try to grab your shin or the ankle or the top of your foot with your right hand. Press through your heel and make the left leg as straight as possible. And then as you twist toward the leg, reach your left arm straight upwards into the air. Slow, expansive breaths. Windmill both of your hands all the way back down to the earth beneath you. Rise up to the tips of your fingers. Turn your toes out. Bend your legs. And rounding your spine, let the top of your head hang near the floor. Shake your head yes a couple times and use that to loosen up the back of your neck. Let your hips drop down as your heels remain in contact with the earth. Now crisscross your arms down beneath your chest with your forearms lifted off the floor. Stand up, straighten your legs, reach your arms out to the sides and upwards. And bend and cross with your exhale. Let your head hang near the floor. Inhale to rise up. Exhale, bend and cross. Huge breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale and drop. Use an inhale to stand all the way up. Now reach your arms way out to your sides. Take a big step to get back to the front of your mat. For the moment, join your hands together in a prayer. Close your eyes. And as you focus on your breath, just feel all those currents of energy flooding through your body and your heart beating off your chest. All right, today, open up your eyes. Start out with your feet pretty close together, and then bend your knees a bit. Take the figure 4 posture, also called Galavasana. Cross your right ankle over your left leg, so you formed a figure 4-like shape, and bend the leg that you're standing on. Tuck your ribs down in the front. Reach both arms out to your sides. You are completely welcome to stay there. If you want a deeper stretch, forward lean just a little bit at a time till your torso gets closer parallel to the floor. If you want to take it further, interlace your hands behind your back and sweep your arms upwards to the ceiling like a set of seagull wings. Otherwise, just keep your arms extended out to the sides, like me. Now, from that positioning there, slowly come up and draw your knee high to your chest. Take your foot down and join your hands together in a prayer at your heart. Now, same pose on the other side. Bend your legs to create a shelf and cross your other leg over, whichever one has not been done. Hinging from your hip crease, lean forward till your torso gets parallel-ish to the floor beneath. And reach your arms all the way out to the sides. At the same time, glide your shoulders toward your belt to pull your shoulders away from your ears. If you wish to interlace your hands behind your back and sweep your arms to the ceiling, go for it. Now use an inhale to come all the way up. Once you've straightened your standing leg, draw your knee high to your chest. Drop your foot back down to the earth and join your hands together in a prayer at your chest. And the dancer's pose, not the Rajasana. Now you've got a few options. Some people like to reach the left arm forward. Others like to take it up, so choose whichever feels best. Once you've got that, reach your right hand back with your thumb facing up like a hitchhiker. Try to grab the inside of your foot near your big toe. Now with a straight standing leg, maintain verticality. Kick your foot all the way up and backward into your hand. Feel free to stay there like me. Otherwise, lean forward just a little bit at a time as you continue kicking. The next time you inhale, come up, draw your knee to your chest and take your foot back down to the floor and join your hands together in a prayer at your heart. The same variation you just did on the other side. Take it at your own rate of speed. The biggest secret with this one is to go mindfully and slowly. Don't go hard on yourself if you wobble. I've been doing this one for over 20 years and I wobble around in it all the time. Just respond to the wobbling. Use an inhale to come all the way back up, knee to the chest, your foot to the floor, and both hands together in a prayer at your chest. Now use an inhale to sweep your arms up to the ceiling. Forward fold as you exhale. Lift to your fingers on the inhale. High push-up position. Lower all the way down to your belly. Now initially, lift your collarbones a little bit and pull your ribs further forward till you feel your belly stretching. Let your ribs come back down to the floor and plant your hands in a push-up position. The next time you inhale, lift your hands and your chest and your legs off of the floor. Squeeze your shoulders back. With your exhale, come back down. Now do those at your pace. Use your inhales to lift everything except your belly. Exhales to come down. As you rise, squeeze your shoulders back in together. And as you drop, just relax once you've hit the base. Keep going. Deepest breaths of your practice so far. Now one more, rise all the way up. If possible, squeeze your legs together. Reach both arms out to your sides and lift the backs of your arms high to the sky. Active legs. And keep your chest lifted and take your feet to the floor. Plant your hands a little further back with your fingertips near the base of your ribs and flex your legs till your kneecaps lift off the earth. Now keep your chest lifted, your hips and torso in one solid piece like a statue. Press down through your hands for the up dog. Stretch back through your toes. If you want a little more stretch, lift upward through your collarbones. And then lift again to the down dog. And press your heels nearer to the mat. And come up to the tips of your toes. Move your hips and heels right. And take your feet closer to the ground. Sweep your hips all the way back up, and then take them over for the same on the other side. And sweep them all the way back up. Roll to a plank position. Drop your knees to the floor. For the moment, shift your hips back until your thighs are closer to vertical. Walk your hands forward to the front. Incrementally sink your elbows and armpits closer to the earth. If it's painful in your shoulders, stay higher. Otherwise, if you're able to put your forehead or chin on the floor, go for it. Use that to bend that whole middle section of your spine. And slow, expansive breaths. And today, just a little bit more time in this one to really open up your middle spine. Chest drops down toward the earth like a brick dropping down to the bottom of an ocean. Now round your spine to lift your elbows. Roll your hips to the ground. And take your elbows all the way down to the earth. Press your elbows into the floor to lift your chest. Now if you're feeling the cobra stretch, straighten your arms and check into your lower back. If it hurts, back out. Today, once your arms are straight, rather than pushing the floor away from your body, keep your arms straight. And let your torso slide onto your arm bones like an ice cream cone sliding onto the cone. And try to keep your arms straight as your chest sort of slumps down and forward. Now that action positions the stretch more in your middle back. Slide your shoulders down toward your belt. And whether your elbows are down or your arms are straight, lift your collarbones up. And then roll all the way back down to the floor beneath. Shift your hips back to the heels. Roll backward over your feet to a seated position. And then today, slide up near the front of your mat and just roll all the way down your back to lay down on the ground. Squeeze your arms tightly into your sides. Then bend your arms to 90 degrees so that your forearms are vertical. Press your elbows down and squeeze your shoulders all the way backwards and together. Lead with your knees and lift your hips upwards in the air for the bridge posture. And first, let your hips sort of slump down a little bit so they're just a little bit lower than your knees. Now take some attention to the bottom of your two ribs. Press your elbows into the floor and lift the base of your ribs just a little higher upwards in the air. Just let it feel like you were hanging from a fishing line connecting your ribs to the ceiling. And shorten those lines to pull the ribs up as you drag your elbows down. And pretend you've got a yoga block between your knees. Gently imagine you are sucking the yoga block toward your pelvis until your tailbone rolls under just a little bit. Now let your knees slide forward as your hips rise higher and higher and higher upward in the air. And at the same time, keep pressing your elbows into the earth beneath. If you're into the wheel pose, go for it. Plant your hands near your head and press all the way to the upright. And then come all the way back down to the floor from wherever you are. And take a few deep breaths once you're down. And again, feel all those beautiful currents of energy flowing throughout. And now reach both arms all the way out to your sides. Shift your hips over to the right. And then drop your knees left. If you want a deeper twist, you can always draw your knees higher upward toward your left armpit. Alternatively, you can lead them further away from the armpit like me for a lighter twist. If you like to press your knees closer to the floor with your left hand, you should do it. And then sweep your knees all the way up. Shift your hips way left. And drop your knees over to the right. Hand to knee, if that's your thing. Now swivel your knees all the way back to the upright. Square your hips with the midline of your mat. Grab the backs of your knees, rock up to a full seated position. Now once you're seated at the top, bend your legs and plant your feet on the floor, and then cross one ankle over the other, doesn't matter which. Squeeze your knees together, and initially keep your heels on the floor. Now make your arms into a big beach ball shape near your chest. Rotate your torso off to the left, and then rotate your torso off to the right. And keep alternating back and forth while you squeeze your knees tight. If you want to make it a little more challenging, lift your feet, keep your knees squeezing. Just keep alternating back and forth. Now come back to the center. Squeeze those knees tighter in. Pull your belly muscles in, extend up through your head, and reach both arms forward to the front. At this point, if your heels are not lifted, try. If you want to make it a little bit more challenging, straighten your legs completely. And then come all the way back down to the earth beneath. Rock forward and plant your hands and use your legs like a set of springs. Press down, hop back to the down dog. And then into the pigeon pose. Swing your right ankle to your left wrist until your knee and your shin come down. Slide your rear leg a little further backwards. And lean forward onto your elbows. One of the best stretches ever, this. And at this point in the practice, let your breath be calm. Completely normal breaths. And just get as heavy as you possibly can everywhere. Place your hands upon the ground. Come up for just a momentary light back bend. Step back to the down dog. Then take the pigeon on the other side. Make sure you slide your leg back a little bit. Just like before, hold all the way forward onto your elbows. Get your hands on the floor, come up for a back bend of sorts. Step back to the down dog. Then lunge your right foot all the way forward. Walk your hands across the ground to face the long edge of your mat. This time, widen your stance a little bit so your feet are maybe 4.5, 5 feet apart. Turn your toes out and drop your hips toward the earth. Now walk your hands way left. With your hips still high, straighten your right leg as much as possible. And if you want a deeper stretch, let your hips sink toward the floor. Now let your hips rise high, come all the way back through center, then take them over for the same on the second side. You get plenty of inner thigh stretch with your hips up, but if you want a lot more, then drop your hips down toward the earth. And come all the way back through center. No, go gently with this one because this is a big one. Start squiggling your feet just a little further apart. And for today, that might be more than enough. If you're able to slide them further apart, do so. Check into your inner thighs and make sure you're in a good spot. Now, if you are going further, point your toes out and see if you can rest near the big toe portion of your foot. With your butt still lifted up, lower your chest closer to the earth and potentially put your chin on the ground. Remember, you can stay higher if that's not working for you. Otherwise, breath by breath by breath. Lift your tailbone up and allow your hips to settle closer to the ground for the straddle split. If you find it helpful, you can plant your hands under your collarbones and come up for just a little bit of a back bend. Now to release, either press up or just slide your legs all the way together there in the back. And when you're ready, come up. Once you've unwound yourself, find your way to a reclining position on the ground. Once you're laying down, reach both arms all the way out to your sides. Take your favorite spinal twist with your knees right. If you're not sure what to do, draw your knees toward your chest. Drop them right and rotate your gaze left. Sweep your knees all the way back up. And then switch your knees over for the same posture on the other side. Then sweep your knees all the way back up and find your way to the corpse pose, flat out on your back on the floor. Make any final adjustments you need to so that you can become comfortable and still. Let your breath return to normal rhythms and just settle in. So back in my early 20s, I used to be a drummer in a punk band in South Central Montana. We used to sell out shows all the time. That's a strange thing because we actually weren't too terribly good. But as it turns out, there actually wasn't much competition in the towns that we were playing in. There were a few bars that people could go out to, but they were generally populated by Vietnam vets and people from the local Masonic lodge, and they weren't really too terribly entertaining to go to. So I suspect that someone could have put a coffee can in the middle of a bar and drummed on that, and probably, most likely, people would have come to see it. Now, even so, despite the fact that most of us weren't too terribly talented in that ensemble, there was one guy in particular who stood out, and he was an actual virtuoso. Now, we were living in a very small town with very few people, but even so, he managed to get some endorsements from some big bass guitar companies. He was so talented that they actually helped him invent a new style of bass guitar with 6 strings as opposed to 4 so that he could further challenge himself. Now, hearing him play was amazing. It was like listening to Bach or Mozart or something like that. The rhythms that he played were really, really wonderful. The patterns that he moved through with his hands were kind of mind-boggling, and to this day, I really have no idea how he did what he did. Now, I was an aspiring musician at that age, wanted to become better myself, and I remembered one time asking him, "Greg, how did you get so good at this bass guitar?" And he told me something that I will never forget. It's actually pretty simple, but he said that every single day when he sits down to practice, he practices something that he cannot do. He practices that same lick, that same pattern over and over and over again until he can actually play it flawlessly. And at that point, he has a new tool in his arsenal. He can use that when it comes to musical performances and other such things to wow his audiences. And because Greg was never satisfied with his performance, he did that every single time he practiced over and over again. And after a little while, that act of practicing something that was challenging from him turned him into an absolutely amazing musician. I moved away from music a long, long time ago, but I've thought of what he said many times over. I think no matter what you decide to do, you'll find some areas where you have strengths, and you'll find other areas where you're challenged. Now, it's really, really tempting to only practice the stuff that you feel good about, the stuff that you've already got down. But if you really want to improve your practice, it's important to practice the other stuff too. Now, as we were going through today's practice, I'll bet you found a few different areas that were a little bit more restricted in your body than the other parts. Now, from your side, if you can sort of take note of that, and you can practice on those particular ranges of motion just a little bit more, then I think that you'll find your practice growing manifold. Now, it's easy to do. You don't have to have a big elaborate practice. And if you're watching TV and a commercial comes on, you can always sit down and practice the pose for the duration of the commercial. You can maybe dedicate 5 minutes at a time when you have some downtime to practicing. And after a little while, as you come back to that point again and again, though the progress might be glacial and incremental, you will absolutely make some progress. No, I think when it comes to meditation, that's more true than any other time. In general, the best meditators are the meditators who practice on their own as well as with guidance. Now, in case you don't have time to do one of these videos one day, I'm going to lead you through a final practice today that you can use to calm your mind anytime you have a little bit of downtime. It only takes a few minutes and it works really, really well. Now, if you have any interest in learning how to go through the longer, more elaborate meditation on your own, I encourage you to memorize the order of operations as we flow through them today. That way, if you're stuck somewhere in the world and you don't have an internet connection, you can do it on your own. And then when you come back together with all of us to practice on these videos, having practice separately, your practices here will be even stronger. So that's up to you, but for the moment, just allow your attention to redirect to your eyes. And for the next few moments, just gaze. When your mind slips away from your eyes, just notice and redirect. Now, there are a number of points you can focus on in your face, but to simplify, just redirect awareness to your throat next. And for the next few moments, keep your awareness centered there. It's okay if your mind wanders, but if you let it, it will wander off into distractions. So if you forget about your throat, just notice that you've forgotten and mindfully redirect your attention. Tips of your shoulders. Whenever your mind wanders, just redirect there. And do your best to ignore any inner chatter that you might be experiencing right now. Shift awareness to your elbows. If your mind is thinking this is a great meditation, try to ignore that. If your mind is thinking, man, I can't wait until this is over, I'm feeling so agitated, do your best to ignore that. Shift awareness to your wrists. And if thoughts of other things start to arise within the mind, like a kaleidoscope spinning out different colors, just redirect, ignore those things, and focus on your wrists. Palms of your hands. Tips of your fingers. Shift awareness to your hips. Kneecaps. Ankles. Bottoms of your feet. Tips of your toes. Sides of your body, right and left. Back of your body. Navel. Center chest. Tips of your shoulders. Back of your neck. Send awareness from your heart to the palms of your hands. From your heart to the bottoms of your feet. From your heart to the base of your spine, and again up to the top of your head. So practicing anything with other people is really amazing because it gives you a boost. Something happens when collective energy is combined. And I believe that happens even when you're practicing with other people through the internet. So coming here is a really great thing to do to boost your practices. Now, we all have different schedules. We can't always practice together. And if you're stressed out sitting on a Zoom meeting, or you're having some challenging situation come up with your kids or something else like that, you're not going to have time to come back to a video. In those cases, this final meditation can be very helpful, and it can help calm you down at least a little bit in under 2 minutes. Now, for now, let your breath remain normal and natural, and just pay attention to your inhaling and your exhaling. Pause your breath at the end of your exhales until it becomes moderately uncomfortable. Once you hit that point, take a normal inhale and a normal exhale and pause again. For the final duration of the practice, continue that over and over again. Pause at the end of your exhale. If you have to deepen your breath ever so slightly, it's okay, but just let it be very slight. Try not to take really huge breaths. As you continue holding your breath out, it may make you uncomfortable. But after time, like anything uncomfortable, you'll adjust. You'll become comfortable with the discomfort. So just do your best to continue on. Let your mind settle and relax physically at the end of every exhale. Just a few more pauses to go. Return to normal breaths. So that technique is very helpful because you can use it in the grand performance of life. You can even use it when things are stressful. So the next time someone says something upsetting to you, if you can remember, while you're listening to them talk, shift awareness to your breath and pause at the end of your exhales. That will help you stay calm until you have to respond. If you have another challenging situation, being stuck somewhere in traffic or something like that, you can do the same. But the best is, of course, to do it in isolation. So if you find yourself a little bit triggered, you can always take a few minutes out and come back to that practice on your own. And it will take some of the edge off of your stress. It won't fix it, but it will definitely help. Now, for now, if you will, let yourself roll all the way over to one side and press back up to a seated and cross-legged pose of some type. Join your hands together in a prayer. Remember the person you dedicated your practice to, and either pray for or wish for their happiness and their health. Take a moment to be thankful for the gift of another day. If you wish, repeat after me. May all sentient beings everywhere experience peace.